Welcome to the NEPA Scene Podcast, the only live streaming in-person arts and entertainment podcast covering Northeastern Pennsylvania, offering a true alternative voice in local media. We're coming to you from the NEPA Scene studio underneath Center City Print in downtown Scranton. I'm Rich Howells, the founder and editor of NEPA Scene, and tonight we're here with two staff members of NeighborWorks Northeastern Pennsylvania. West Scranton Neighborhood Coordinator Miranda and Director of Community Development Todd Pousley, Pousley. Our partners on the free Allen Park concert series in West Scranton that we've been talking about quite a bit. If you caught the episode Running in Flip-Flops, you'll know all about that. So we're talking about how NeighborWorks revitalizes neighborhoods and improves lives in Scranton. And beyond by addressing housing needs and revitalizing neighborhoods, what makes different sections like West Scranton stand out. I can tell you all about that. Activism and how to build stronger communities, the role that local arts and entertainment plays in all this, and much, much more. So please join our conversation with your questions and comments down below. We'll get to those later in the show. I'm sure that you guys might be like, well, this is an interesting topic. It's maybe not something you usually do. We have a lot of musicians on here too, but we got to mix it up sometimes and talk about other stuff. So we're definitely going to talk about music and its role in the community, but some other stuff as well. So, I mean, there's no shortage of opinions on Scranton and how things should be done around here and all that kind of stuff. So leave all that great stuff in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Before we dive in, I want to thank our sponsor, Center City Print, who's provided this studio space for us. Use promo code NEPA Scene in person and online at Center City Print for 10% off. Center City Print can bring your ideas to life in 3 locations: Scranton, Kingston, and Hazleton. These one-stop shops are locally owned and operated, offering high-quality printed products, copy and custom print services, and design solutions to help you, your small business, your nonprofit, your band, your photography, your art project, or any venture thrive. Visit them now at centercityprint.com and use promo code NEPAScene online or in person for 10% off. All right, so what is NeighborWorks? What does your organization do?
So NeighborWorks is a nonprofit housing community development organization. We're actually part of a network of about 250 NeighborWorks organizations all across the country that are doing similar types of work. The work that we do is focused primarily on homeownership, and falls into 3 basic buckets. The first is what we call homebuyer financial education, helping people purchase their first homes. So if you haven't purchased a home before and you want to see one of our HUD certified counselors, they can help you take a look at your budget, save money for a down payment, walk you through the whole home buying process. We host public free workshops. We bring in realtors, lenders, things like that. So you can make as informed a decision about buying a home as possible. Depending on your income, if you meet certain income requirements, we also provide down payment and closing cost assistance to help you afford to purchase your first home. Once you're in your home, we want to keep you there as long as possible. So we do provide services like foreclosure counseling in the event that you do get into trouble and might be at risk of losing your home. We can try to help you with that. Once you get older, you're a senior, we have an aging in place program where we help older adults 60 and above stay in their homes as long as possible. What we try to do is make the repairs and modifications to their homes so that as they get older, they become a little less mobile, things like that. They can still continue to live in their home independently and safely. So we do a lot of bathroom modifications where we might replace a bathtub with a walk-in shower, wheelchair ramps, widening doors, things like that. So we can, just help older folks live more safely in their homes. We want to try to keep them there as long as possible. It's where they want to live. It's got lots of benefits for the community. It lowers costs. They don't have to move into assisted living facility, lowers, medical costs. They're not going to a hospital because they're tripping and falling at home and things like that. And then our third program area, which is one Miranda and I are involved in, is our community development program. And that's really our place-based work. So whereas with the other programs, we're helping individuals and families through our community development work, we're trying to improve the whole community that they live in. Typically kind of starting at the neighborhood level. So we're doing a lot of work in West Scranton, of course. It's one of our target areas. We do some similar work up in Carbondale. And then we also have some programs like our Beautiful Blocks program to help people all across Scranton, Carbondale, Pittston make exterior improvements to their homes.
That is quite a few jobs there. Now, you specifically, I read your official titles there. What do you specifically do at the organization?
So I oversee all of our community development work. So those three focus areas that I talked about, each of those has a program director. So I'm the program director for our community development program. I work with Miranda. We have a team of 4, including myself, in our program area. Each of those people is responsible for some different things.
And how about you?
So I work specifically in West Scranton on all of the place-based work. So that includes like working with local partners to promote their services or like to improve safety, walkability, clearing blight, bringing like services to the business owners. So trying to help get them facade grants or connect them with community resources that can help them support their business. And then also working with the schools and community organizations and anchor institutions in the area that are places that residents like use and value and that like turn it into a community.
Okay. So what are some of maybe the accomplishments that NeighborWorks have made in Scranton and other parts of northeastern Pennsylvania that you feel are worth highlighting?
Well, as you mentioned, we do quite a variety of work. When we started, our organization was actually founded over 40 years ago in Scranton for one purpose, and that was to help families who at the time couldn't get conventional loans from a bank to make repairs to their homes, get the money that they needed to do that. So a group of banks kind of came together and said, we want to pull together some funds so we can lend to families so they can improve their homes when they can't get the money from a bank. From there, we expanded into all these other areas of work that, we talked about, beginning with kind of the home buyer education and getting into, some of our community development work and our aging in place services. Right now, our aging in place program is probably the most active and has been growing the quickest just based on the need. We've got in Northeast Pennsylvania just a large number of elderly people. So it's just a service that's really needed. We've made a conscious decision probably 5 or 6 years ago to kind of take the services that we offered to all families, regardless of age and income and things like that, and really kind of focus on older adults, provide them with the home repair services that we were providing to lots of different families just because the need was so great there. So we've been able to serve a lot of older adults in some unique ways through some of the home modifications and repairs that I talked about, but we're also doing things like we've got an ECHO program, which is kind of this pilot program through the state where we're providing opportunities for older adults to continue to live independently in what we'd call a cottage, a small house, which most people kind of think of as like a tiny house, but we place that on the property of a family member who can provide some care for them as well. So kind of a unique model that we're testing out. When it comes to our community development work, we're really proud of what we've been able to do in West Scranton. That's really about 4 or 5 years ago, we made the decision to really focus a lot of our efforts on that neighborhood because we were having an impact on lots of different communities across Scranton and Northeast Pennsylvania, but We saw a need in West Side for some of the services that we provided. We realized that no one was really investing in that neighborhood the way that other organizations might be investing in other areas of the city. So, one of our fellow community development nonprofits, United Neighborhood Centers, they were leading a lot of neighborhood revitalization work at Southside, which needed it. There were organizations, in the Hill section, like the University of Scranton, that were willing to invest there because that's where their campus was located. There's a lot of focus on the downtown. Right. Nobody was really in West Side,
I can, as a West Sider, I can definitely vouch for that.
Yeah. So, we recognized that and said, hey, like, we want to be the ones to lead the work here because we see a need for it. So that led us to go out, talk to residents, business owners, other stakeholders, just find out what was important to them, what they wanted to see improved, what they wanted their community to be, and take all of that information, help figure out how to actually achieve that over a long period of time. And we developed a 10-year revitalization plan. We're a few years into that plan now. That's the work that Miranda's leading. But just to have that strategy, that plan that everybody kind of buys into, is just it takes a lot of work. It takes some investment to get there. We spent about 2 years just developing the plan before we really did anything. But I think what a lot of people don't recognize, and many people, want to immediately kind of get their hands dirty, right, and start doing stuff and fixing things, is that having that plan enables organizations like ours to go out and raise the dollars to do the work, because we can demonstrate that this isn't just something that we NeighborWorks decided we wanted to do, but really something that residents and people in the community said was important to them, that we're supporting them in. So really proud to have been able to develop that plan, begin carrying it out, and as I mentioned before, we just finished a similar plan for a neighborhood in Carbondale, so we'll be kind of starting that process as well.
So when you're talking to residents, what were some of the things that maybe they mentioned that you guys felt you needed to tackle? Was there certain problems or certain issues? Yeah.
So as part of developing our plan, we actually did we did a variety of community engagement activities, but the primary one was a door-to-door survey. So we actually went door to door,
old school,
to reach people, right? Because we recognize, like, if you just hold a public meeting and ask people to come out and give their opinion, only a small fraction of people are,
that's true,
A, going to be interested, B, might have the ability to, right?
Right.
They've got lives, they got to work, they got kids, they got homework to do.
You'll get the guys who come out to the city council meetings every week to say the same things. That you'll get 2 or 3 people on top of that. That's about it. Exactly,
and I think if you've watched a city council meeting or been to one, you know how that turns.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yes.
So our approach was a little different. We actually went out kind of randomly and knocked on doors and collected surveys from hundreds of people in our target area in West Side, and not only do you gather a lot of data there through the survey, but you have some really meaningful conversations with people too, right? Who are willing to take 20 minutes or a half hour, and sometimes longer. Sometimes you'd end up sitting on their porch and talking to them for an hour, just about their experiences, good and bad, in the neighborhood, and what they're interested in, and So through all of that work. There were a couple of things that we realized, on the plus side, West Side's just got a really, really strong, tight-knit community. As you probably know, like, if you were born in West Side, grew up there, like, you bleed blue, right? Like, and for better or worse, I'd hear from people who, would spend their entire time just complaining about the neighborhood. But at the end of the day, like, if I said something bad about the neighborhood, it'd be like, no, right? Like, this is my neighborhood. We're proud of this,
We can complain about this. You, however, cannot complain about this.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked to So many people who, when we asked them about, what do you like about living here? What keeps you here? It was, well, my family lives here, or my neighbors, I grew up with them, and, they're great. And it's, the school community. It was really the people. And, for us, that was a really exciting place to start, because in a lot of communities where you might work, and communities that need to be improved in some different ways, you often don't have that connectedness.
Sure.
You're more likely to have people who say, yeah, like, I don't know my neighbors, I don't care to know my neighbors, I'm just doing my thing. So that was the positive. On the negative side, by and large, the thing that most people brought up was the condition of the neighborhood, the physical condition of the neighborhood. It's things like, there's litter all over the place, there's vacant, abandoned buildings that are falling apart. The sidewalks are deteriorating. There's vacant lots that are overgrown, and people are dumping stuff in.
For sure.
There's a lot of those just physical improvements that they were looking for, just to create a nicer neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean, from a personal perspective, I grew up in West Side, right by the high school, and growing up, we took care, like my parents, took over a house that was in the family, and that's where we grew up. And over time, you have 4 kids, you have so many expenses, there's so much there. The house began to deteriorate, and we really didn't have the funds to keep up with that. And as that got worse over the years, and eventually, a few years ago, we had a fire, they lost everything, because we weren't able to keep up with those expenses, as a family, no matter how much we tried. And I think there were some things that were just kind of beyond financial scope, or as my parents got older, it's like, I don't want to see my dad on the roof trying to fix holes up there and stuff like that. So it got to a certain point of decay that they didn't have insurance anymore on it, because the insurance looked at the house and was like, well, we're not going to insure that, because you need to do this, this, and this. And it's like, well, we can't even afford to do this, never mind this, this, and this. So then you have, I know it's more of a tragic example of like what can happen, but, I see that all over in general. It's like, I don't think it's people being lazy or not being proud of where they're from or not wanting to do these things. It's a matter of just affordability. I mean, these days too, I see a lot of people in the current generation who, joke about how they'll never have a home. I mean, and I know that they joking about it is, one thing, but the reality is, like, they just don't make enough money. And, as rent continues to go up and that sort of thing, it's just, it becomes an impossibility for some people. So it's great that there are organizations that people can turn to, like yours, that actually can help with some of those issues and alleviate some of those problems.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the first thing that you hit on there was, kind of this misnomer that, if you have a property and it's not taken care of, people tend to say, oh, well, that's, it's a rental property. The people who live there don't care. The landlord doesn't care. They're from out of town, right?
Right.
And that happens, right?
Sure.
That doesn't exist. But
right.
Yeah, there's also well-meaning people who, want to take care of their property and don't have the means, right?
Sure.
They can't afford to do it. If they're older, they can't physically, do it anymore. No. And those are the people that we're trying to help, right? And it's through things like our Beautiful Blocks program, which I mentioned, where, we provide $1,000 in a grant to a family to do pretty much anything they want to the outside of their home, right? And they have to provide a matching grant. If, they meet certain income requirements, that match is a little lower. But we're just trying to give like a little bit, to incentivize people and give them just that little extra that they need to say, yeah, well, now with that little bit of money, right, I can finally do whatever I wanted to do
right.
to my home, that I couldn't afford.
And they're doing it with their neighbors. they get their neighbors on board, and so it's like a community building process as well. And one thing that I wanted to add to that, so we have our community development plan that we're working on. It is resident driven, and we're taking all of the information that people gave us and getting funding to pursue those projects and implement them. And then, so that's our side of it. And part of that is also like community activism, trying to connect organizations and community leaders to one another. And a West Scranton neighborhood association has recently popped up. They're trying to like reinvigorate the neighborhood association, and there's a few things going on, but some community groups are starting to show up. And at one of the neighborhood association meetings, they were talking about that. They were talking about how there are so many people in so many different circumstances that you really can't generalize that, like, what is happening to properties, because there's just so many different circumstances. And this group, like multiple members in the group, wanted to be able to go out and talk to the property owners or like the residents or whoever they were and say like, hey, I noticed that like your steps are in rough shape. Are you doing okay? Is there anything that we could help? And like this group was interested in pursuing peer-to-peer support, like separate from us, which I think was so incredible. And I think like as we're doing our things and pursuing funding to improve sidewalks and streets and install lighting and hosting events and things, I think that having that element of resident engagement and giving people the tools and space on it, like we just hosted them in our building, like giving them the space to talk to each other about what they wanted to do and what they brought to the table, that was really powerful. So I'm excited to see where that goes and you know, what we can do to support. But I just thought that it was so cool to hear people say that they wanted to give to people who didn't have resources. Like that is the thing. Like when we can see what we have and how we can help each other, like NeighborWorks can do all that we can do in the world, but if we don't have residents living there supporting each other and connecting to one another, then it's, you know, it's not going to make as much of a difference. So that was just like really inspiring to see that and to hear it, and they're still having meetings. So
that's really great.
Yeah,
it's and to how do you maybe get the word out about what you do so that people know what they can come to you for, and how do you reach people? Because I feel like a lot of people have a lot of complaints, especially when it comes to the internet, that sort of thing, and they want to say, well, this person doesn't care, the city doesn't care, nobody cares, whatever. But I also, in the time and energy you spend complaining about those things, you could probably be looking up organizations that might be able to help you, or finding other people to join you in a common cause and that sort of thing. So how do you find people and connect with them, and then actually get out there to make it happen?
Yeah, so we do that in a variety of ways. We use all the traditional digital means of getting in touch with people, from email newsletters to social media, everything in between. But I think what we've found really is a lot of it is stuff like this. Just taking opportunities to talk to people, taking opportunities like this to talk to audiences that may have never heard about NeighborWorks and what we do, right? And just connecting people with people in different ways. A lot of our clients, the people that we end up serving, come to us because they heard from someone else that, hey, I participated in Beautiful Blocks last year. This might be really great for you. Why don't you call them up, right? Sure. Or hey, NeighborWorks helped me buy my home. I know you're buying your home now, and you might need some help. Like, give them a ring. A lot of that word of mouth, referrals is really critical to the work that I'm doing. And then Miranda's doing lots of things just to engage people in West Side.
Yeah, and I think so we do it in a variety of ways, and with our organization, since we have so many different ways that people engage with our organization, we do have cross-programmatic things that happen. Like we have an older adult who needs services. Turns out they're also on West Side, and like we get to connect with each other, and there's opportunities for storytelling and things like that. But I think also with events, getting people to come out to something free and fun, and being inspired to see an underutilized space being used that's walkable to their house. Like getting people out of their houses with something free, accessible, and just to have a good time with no other means. Like you can absolutely come to this event and not interact with any of our work until next time, but probably you're going to interact with one of our staff members, or you're going to interact with a community leader who's really passionate about the work that we have going on. And chances are there's some of the work that we're doing directly impacts you. So by having these events that at their base level, they're free, fun, entertainment, they get like with the Allen Park concert series, people will sit on their porches, listen to music. There will be people who like just walk to the park, and then those people who are in walking distance get to interact with each other. So it's all about touch points. And when you have multiple touch points that happen, people, even if they don't know anything with the word of mouth, people can be like, oh, I wonder like what this is. Why is this even happening? This never happened before. I haven't seen this park used in 20 years. What's going on? So all of those things are opportunities to open conversations and to get people passionate about it, because the work that we do is inherently like good. It's inherently things that people want to see. And since it is community driven with our West Scranton work, like they're a part of it.
Well, there's, specifically I want to talk about how you get people to support local businesses, maybe more than, you see so many, every time you turn on the news, it's like, oh, we're getting Chili's. Great. Yay, another chain restaurant that looks the exact same as all the other chain restaurants. That's great. How about we focus maybe on, the little corner, place in West Side where you can get, food that's 10 times better. How do you get people to support local businesses more? Maybe, recognize that spending $1 in a local business is going to take your community much farther than spending $1 at McDonald's or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So with the businesses, we have, again, all of the strategies that we use are like multi-layered and integrated. But for example, by having an event at Allen Park that's right next to a lot of businesses, so people are naturally going to smell the food and be like, I want that. I'm hungry. I'm here for 2 hours. I want that. So there's that element. And then we also did a scavenger hunt this past winter where we had Wesley, the West Scranton elf, and he went to lots of different businesses. I think we had like 7 or 8, and they had clues and a passport that when you found Wesley, you got your stamp, and you would get a prize for going there. And so we worked with the business owners of who was interested in hosting Wesley. And so we put them there, we gave the clues, and people just found the places. They found places that they'd never been before, and then they had gift cards to go to those places. So like West Side Flavas and Postnet, some people had never been able to buy Christmas cards before. And because they had this certificate to Postnet, they were able to send out Christmas cards for the first time ever. And like Postnet designed them and like gave them envelopes and everything. So I think by directly showing people what's available in your community, it has a big impact, because when we surveyed people at the end, like all of the people who submitted their passports, a lot of them said that they had never been to X amount of the businesses that we had them at. Like some people had never been to a single one of them. Some people hadn't been to like half of them. So being able to expose people to that was really helpful. Also having public community meetings in spaces that can host people, and having it at a restaurant. So we were doing Beautiful Blocks recruitment on Railroad and Luzerne Street, and we had a public meeting that was walking distance from there at Roberto's. So they were able to have the pizza, they were able to enjoy the ambiance, and it was walking distance to their house, whereas like they may not have even known that that was there. So I think by providing people experiences in those businesses, that gives an opportunity to the staff and the business owner to relate with the residents is really powerful. I know Gerard was talking to me the other day about his uncle. He went to Cadden's and would walk around there, but he really went there because he wanted to talk to the people, and that's how he shopped. So like the relationships that we have with each other and with the business owners, like that's what can sustain a community and what can sustain businesses.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
I think providing those opportunities to build those relationships.
Yeah, I think West Side too just benefits by having all of those awesome small businesses, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you go down Main Avenue in West Side, and it's all small businesses, and you know, it's a huge asset. And a lot of them are like well established. You know, you've got Catalanos.
When I was a kid, and it's still they're still there. You know.
Yeah, you know, and all of these businesses have been there forever.
Yeah.
It's not. You know, it's not a coincidence. It's not an accident that, you know, we decided to host our concert series in Allen Park, not to mention other events there. You know, that was a park, I'm sure, you know, growing up in the neighborhood. You remember what people used to call Allen Park?
I don't know if I remember anyone, like, I definitely remember it being, I don't even remember hearing the words Allen Park.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely.
Nobody called it that.
Park,
right.
It was Needle Park. You know, that's what
Needle Park.
People
that's
used
right.
To call it
yes,
Needle Park.
I do remember some people.
You know,
saying
and you could
that.
probably guess why
people
it,
would
right?
say that. Yeah, I could figure that out.
Yeah, there were you know
Put
some
two and two
unsavory
together
things happening in this
Sure.
park.
And right next to the businesses.
Right next to the businesses. So,
Sure.
You know, and there was an effort long before, you know, we got involved in West Side to actually physically clean that park up.
My grandmother told me when I was telling her about the concert series. She said there was that and probably in that back area. That's the you know when you go all the way to the back of the park there. There used to be like a public bathroom and stuff in there.
Yeah.
That was like some kind of structure or whatever that's been demolished or whatever, you know, decades ago, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Little stuff like that, which I'm sure contributed, but you
Good to know there's piping back there.
there's something down. I'm sure it's all buried. But yeah, there was some structure there, which also would explain why, you know, there's little cement blocks and things that are kind of randomly still there, you know, that might be painted over, but you're like, okay, what was this, you know, at one point?
Yeah, so we're hoping to, you know, we're hoping to continue making some physical improvements to that.
Sure.
We got some plans to do that. But you know, what we wanted to do first of all is just make space,
people
right?
aware of it.
Yeah, make people aware of it, you know, get them there for some good reasons, and to your initial point, right, go out and realize and start patronizing some of the businesses there. You know, we had discussions early on about, you know, the concert series, and we're like, oh, should we have like some food trucks here, people selling food? And we're like, we could do that, but we could also like not provide the food and instead encourage people to go around the corner and get a pizza at Vincenzo's, you know, or
right.
And you see that, you know, and I sit there and like people are going and they're grabbing food, so they're supporting the businesses, you know, while they're out having a good time.
We also take menus from the businesses and put them at the park. There's Taco Bandito gives 1 free taco coupons. So we work with the businesses in the surrounding area to show people what's there, because I'm sure you know that like people who aren't from West Side as well, like they show up and they don't know what's around. So, you know, it's good to have the options that are available around you.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that was in our advertising, but now that you announced we're giving out free tacos, there might be even more people.
Oh yeah,
at our next
sure.
True. I'll have to make sure I talk to Dave.
You know, I think an interesting part of Scranton, you know, it being the population's about 76,000, sixth most populous city in Pennsylvania. For those who don't live here, though, they might be surprised to find that there are so many differently named neighborhoods, and that there's all these invisible lines that draw to one to the other, and that sort of thing. What have you guys found over the years makes these little areas interesting or unique, or different as you've worked in these different neighborhoods.
Yeah, that was so I didn't grow up in West Scranton or Scranton. I came here to go to school at Marywood and stuck around after that. But that was one thing that struck me as unique. I hadn't experienced other places where there was like all of these neighborhoods, right? And in a lot of cases, including like West Side,
right?
There's an allegiance to like your neighborhood, right?
For sure.
It's a micro neighborhood.
Yeah.
West Side, but also
absolutely
like Hyde Park.
Hyde Park, yes, exactly.
Yeah,
like
Hyde
that
Park
sort of thing.
and Bellevue and Trips Park and like all these other areas, but like
and you're
you
like,
can ask people like where are you from, and they'll say like West Side, or Trips Park before they say Scranton sometimes.
Sure, yeah. And you're like, what are you talking about?
yeah. But I think again, going back to our point about like building community and just like these strong ties, like that's a real asset. To have in places like Scranton where you've got, these neighborhoods and, people that have, lived there for all of their lives. You've got new people to the neighborhood, but, there's like this power in the place that they live, right? Like they identify with it, and again, that's a really great like foundation for, improving a community is having that buy-in. West Side, it's fun. I'm still trying to figure out like all the different sub neighborhoods and in West Scranton and where they begin and where they end. We drew our boundaries for like we're doing work in like a section, a target area in West Side, and we've actually got a section where there's like debate. Some people there say they're in South Side technically because like it's a different zip code. It's not the 18504 zip code, and we're like, well, we don't care. We're just gonna we're gonna define this as West Scranton. Like you're on this side of the Lackawanna River, like we're gonna call that West Scranton.
Sure.
And if you don't want to be a part of what we're doing, it's fine.
Yeah, I'll put for those who maybe are not from the area, I'll put a map up on the screen here of. So I found these two maps. This is like somebody made for Wikipedia, and it's pretty good actually. Pretty decent representation. And then this one by a Reddit user to kind of get an idea of just how many. Like that's just Scranton, by the way. This is not Lackawanna County. This is not this. Just looking at, and I'll show you what I'm looking at, but all these little tiny divisions and invisible lines and things like that. But I do think
that's all throughout Scranton.
Yeah, and it's kind of a generational thing because, like, growing up, I never heard any of this stuff. Like, nobody, none of my friends, nobody I hung out with, nobody I even heard was like, talking about Manuka and things like that. Like, we didn't hear this stuff. But my parents, my grandparents, all of them, they definitely heard all these words and knew, now you're in Hyde Park and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, Hyde Park? What? What does that even mean? So it's interesting how I think we've lost a little bit of that history over the years. And I would love to maybe see some of that come back, not in a divisive way, because I think drawing more lines is like drawing lines in a country. You're dividing up land more and more and more. But I'd love to see more people like look up the history of their neighborhood and understand that, and like those little historical markers help, things like that. But.
So that's so interesting that you said that because our previous CEO was really passionate about figuring out something to do with like some type of visual something, whether that be like a sticker for that area or like I like your idea of the historical markers, but something that names those locations. We never quite figured it out, and also for that I think we would really need a lot of community champions in those neighborhoods because but maybe it starts with one neighborhood. Maybe one neighborhood, micro neighborhood wants to develop that identity, and that's something that we could support. So it's interesting that you brought that up because that was definitely something that we looked into as part of our work.
Yeah, it's a little silly when you think about it.
It's fun. We can use a little silliness, right?
Yeah, it is. I find it silly anyway, in a good way. I'm sure there's some old guy would argue with me about that all day, but I find it kind of funny, but in a cool way. Like I want to learn more about it. I'm not dismissing it as a thing. It's definitely part of our history.
Yeah, I was in a building the other day when we were doing canvassing for facade grants, and inside the business there was like a description of this historical building in West Side and talking about its location, and it referenced Hyde Park as a designated location. So I think what you had to say about like the history of an area, that understanding the neighborhoods and the locations, since it is generational, it probably ties into lots of things in our past that are important to hold on to, because one day we might want to or need to know about them. And there's a lot of residents in the area who have those memories.
Yeah. And for it being, not a gigantic city, it does have, these there are kind of delineations in a way where you can just kind of, if you weren't from the area, you didn't know anything, you just kind of drove through, you'd be like, these people on this side of the city are living completely different lives than the people on this side of the city. And some of that is of course financial and economic and things like that. Some of it's the structure, what's been taken care of and what hasn't been, and you could see where things have been focused over the years, or how this is this building is some kind of community center, so then there's more stuff around that, but then you go down here a little bit and it's completely different. And that sort of thing, like all of that stuff, I find really fascinating.
And that also reminds me about, I don't know if you're aware of this, but something that I've seen in a lot of places is that like people in Scranton, and this is a huge generalization, I'm sure there's a ton of people in Scranton who don't abide by this, but a lot of people don't travel to the other neighborhoods.
Yes.
Like they spend a lot of time in their one neighborhood.
Right.
And so that kind of reminds me of what you said about how a lot of people are living different lives depending on the neighborhood that you're in. And I think a part of that too is connectivity and access. Like we were leading a mobile tour in a bus on like throughout Scranton to show people different neighborhoods and different housing types. And we had to take a very specific route to accommodate a bus because of the overpasses and things like that. So there are structural elements that do make it difficult to go between neighborhoods as well.
Yeah.
So, and that's part of our work too, like trying to build those connections and just advocate for their improvement, or pursuing funding for that, or adding signage that makes it beautiful and helps people recognize where they are, or building sidewalks and crosswalks so that it's safe to go from one area to another.
Sure.
And also I recently learned that a lot of kids in South Side actually go to West Side. That they either walk or take the bus from South Side to West Side.
Yeah, one thing that when I was looking at these crazy maps, I did notice that West Scranton is not on them. It's not actually like written down anywhere. Like West Scranton is, again, like a thing that the residents have said, yeah, they've declared it West Scranton, but there really isn't any map that I could find that actually delineated it like as West Scranton specifically, which I think was really interesting too.
Something when we were developing our plan, we actually had like questions about like, well, what do we call this, right? Because there are all these kind of sub neighborhoods, and we said, well, we could call it the West Side Plan, but we're like, we've kind of heard from some people like there's areas that they would consider like West Side, as kind of like a sub neighborhood, and we kind of landed on West Scranton. We're like, that's probably like the least offensive to people, and the most
Right.
inclusive, like,
and geographically accurate.
Yeah. So that worked, but. I want to go back to what you talked about like the unique character of all these neighborhoods. I think that's something that's really cool in Scranton, right? Is that each of these neighborhoods too has like a different character. They've got a different history, and in West Scranton we've tried to like figure out what that is, and I think the best word I could come up with to like describe West Scranton was gritty. Which kind of describes like the place, but also the people, and
for sure.
I've heard people say like, yeah, we're scrappy, and like
definitely
kind of owning that, right?
Yeah.
But we're trying to do that's an important part of like building a community though too. Is getting people people to understand this, the culture and the history and the character. And, we're trying to do some ways, trying to do some things to share that with, other generations as well. You mentioned older people tend to, we talk to an old person, the first thing they'll start telling us about is like, oh, this place used to be this and West Side, and this was that, and I remember doing this, and now it's all different. And younger people don't know that, right? But shameless plug, we've got our own podcast that
yes.
one of our colleagues, Parker, puts together. The purpose of that, and it's called Be a Neighbor, is just sitting down with people primarily from West Scranton, or people who have a connection there, and just like talking to them and letting them tell their story and their experiences, and just like sharing that with other people as an important community building piece of work that we're doing.
Yeah, I find that really interesting too. I saw you just had Ryan Hanat on there, and I've known him a long time, and super talented artist and a teacher in West Side and stuff too.
And he actually brought his students to that.
See, that's cool.
It was so awesome. There was a class there learning about how the podcast is made, and we got to talk with them after, and it was just so cool because you don't know when something like that is going to show somebody who's growing up and has a passion, something like this is possible, and this is how I do it, and these people are doing it, and if I have questions, I can ask.
Right.
So that was a really cool one.
I think one of the early ones you had was Annette Palutis was on there, and she was my old drama teacher. So she is literally the reason that I can talk to you right now and not completely stutter through the whole thing, and actually get in front of people and do stuff, because I think pretty early on I knew I wasn't going to be a famous Hollywood actor or anything like that, but I knew that I wanted to do theater, and I wanted to entertain people, or I wanted to to be able to talk in front of people, and that her teaching style and her classes were absolutely essential to that, and I've taken that with me through the rest of my life. So it's funny how those people just pop up in your life again, especially when you live in a little neighborhood like West Side. That stuff continues to come up again and again.
And I wanted to go back as well to you were talking about how people older people will walk through a neighborhood and be like, oh, this used to be this, and this used to be this. And I think that's the power of place-based work, because I guarantee you when we're older, I already do it, and I don't even live in West Side, but I talk about what's going on and what used to be things. So when we get older, we're going to be like, this is where I used to do this, and this is where I used to do this. And that is the purpose of place-based work, is creating the memories in the places, and that builds the connection to a space. Anytime you're anywhere, I know I drive through my old town and be like, oh wow, I can't believe this is gone. I love this place. This is where I got ice cream. Yep. And it's an important thing. And when we listen to other people and hear what that was, we can learn more about how we got here.
For sure. And now it's growing up. It was funny because all of the talk about Scranton was always about coal. It was always coal mining and the coal mines and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know how other people felt about it. I always thought it was well, that is incredibly depressing. If that's the only thing that we're known for, is something that happened a very long time ago, and that really historically it has not aged well at all. Yes, those people worked very hard, and I think that as you said, things like scrappy and gruff and stuff like that definitely comes from that old coal mining town sort of feel. I feel like that has been passed down from generation to generation, that hardworking mentality. At the same time, it's well, yes, but we're also letting industry run roughshod on our people, on our environment. We've, they as soon as the coal was mostly gone, they left the entire state devastated, and we're still feeling those effects today, economically and environmentally and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of, we should absolutely recognize that that's a thing. But I always felt growing up, I'm can we be known for something else? Can we get past this? Can we, can Scranton be known for something else? And now everybody just associates us with The Office. And I know you guys are fans of The Office. I've seen your YouTube channel, the NeighborWorks YouTube channel.
Oh, I thought you asked personally.
There's NeighborWorks in general.
Oh,
yeah, there's a few videos on there that have some either the play on the introduction.
Yep.
The only thing that was shot in Scranton, and the show itself and that sort of thing. And I think it is cool to have something in pop culture recognize maybe Scranton in a better way than we've been recognized before. I do remember growing up, there was a great Scranton Times article, and I cut it out, and I'm sure it's lost somewhere. But I remember this great Scranton Times article, and this was long before The Office, was like all of the times that Scranton has been named in pop culture. And I think there is also a website floating around. I don't know if it's still there. It's like Old Web. We're talking about 90s dial-up days. I don't know if the website's still around. But there was a website that had all of the different times that Scranton was named in an old movie or a TV show and things like that. And 99% of the time, it was a butt of a joke. It was always you're from Scranton, and it was always reflecting badly on whoever they were talking about or something like that, which I found really interesting. I'm like, where does that come from?
That's so interesting. I don't feel that way at all.
Yeah, and I don't hear it as much anymore, but it's definitely every once in a while, I have seen weird references in a movie or a TV show or something like that. There was one a few years ago, and this is just off the top of my head because I watched The Walking Dead religiously until I didn't, like everyone else in the world.
Yes, yeah.
And there was the one episode where he says there's a Wilkes-Barre of walkers outside. I said, what in the hell does that mean? That's not even a good reference. That just doesn't make any sense.
That's not our Wilkes-Barre.
No, it's not. I don't get what he was trying to say there. Is he's the people there are all kind of zombies walking around, or
that would be really helpful. You know how those lyrics websites where you could look up the lyric and then hover over it and then it gives you a description.
Yes, it says what. Yeah,
that would be helpful for that.
Yeah, someday if I ever get to, because I've interviewed a couple of random people over the years for conventions and things like that. If that guy is ever he was the guy with the mullet, the long hair. If I ever got Eugene, if I ever got to interview the actor, I would ask him about that line and where did that come? Because it sounded like an improv line, or somebody maybe on the set was from Wilkes-Barre, just wanted to hear the name Wilkes-Barre named in a TV show that they like. But I don't know, stuff like that's really strange. But yeah, there was usually a lot of that there's the vaudeville aspect, which the Ritz is very it's very cool to see them playing on that now, playing up that vaudeville shows used to come through Scranton a lot, and the idea which is painted on the inside of their building, if you can make it in Scranton, you can make it anywhere. And that goes back to the fact that a lot of these performers would come here and play for the coal miners, who were notoriously rough audiences, who were if I'm taking
literally
the 1 5 cents that I have left, the 1 nickel that I have left, and I put it down here, this better be the best show I've ever seen, or I'm going to pelt you with so much stuff, or I'm going to run you out of town. So it's interesting that that idea was here, but has been kind of lost over time. I've never heard that saying outside of Scranton, put it that way. And
also, the music historically in our area really was massive music and performance, and it's really cool to see all of these stories coming back up. I know Black Scranton, they were doing a podcast and they highlighted a lot of that stuff, and Glennis is an archivist, so she has so much information on that. And I went to a John Legend concert, and he was doing this really incredible performance, And the last thing I expected was for him to say that he sang in a church in Scranton, and that's what just kind of set his trajectory. I had no idea. So it really is awesome that there's just so many ties to music and performance in our area.
For sure, and that when you made, if you had a successful show here, then you knew if you took it to New York, which is not far away, and it all geographically makes sense, then you were going to be successful there too. If you could make the audiences here happy, you could certainly make the audiences in New York happy. You probably had a few more nickels.
That's so interesting. I never heard of that.
Yeah, so but I don't know if we play enough on that. And I feel like, especially now, we've had so many successful artists come out of here, so many successful bands. Maybe that's where Scranton should really push to be known for in the greater pop culture, I guess, is our music. Yeah. Because when you have not just people always say Breaking Benjamin, but I'm thinking more of the Menzingers, Tiger's Jaw, Title Fight. These bands that are not only successful worldwide, you see, they have fans all over the place, but that they all have this kind of distinct sound that says Scranton in a weird way. It's just you kind of know they're all from the same area without having to know that. They just all have this certain thing about them. And or Scranton or Wilkes-Barre, Kingston, that sort of area. It's all once you get out of the area, I think people just say Scranton as shorthand. But
they don't know the NEPA acronym.
No, they're not, and they're certainly not getting into all the neighborhoods, all the little things like that. Well, I mean, that's
what you're doing. You're kind of pushing the message of NEPA and Scranton being renowned for their music and looked at that way. So kudos to you for seeing that vision and pushing it.
Yeah, I hope that more people outside of the area will see that type of stuff and recognize. I know we have a pretty decent viewership in Philadelphia, and how those scenes are connected in a lot of ways. Because a lot of these guys, Menzingers being a great example. You can only get so far as artists in Scranton. You have to move to a major city like Philadelphia to kind of take those next steps in your career.
You have to play for the coal miners and then get more nickels.
Exactly. Once you've got that big sock of nickels, you can drag it down to Philadelphia.
So do you think any of that might change if we end up getting an Amtrak?
Yeah, I think that would help a lot for sure. Any kind of easier way to get from place to place, because I feel like even that started to used to really rely. I get growing up, the tri-state sort of scene where you had Pennsylvania, Jersey, and New York all kind of sharing shows and sharing bands and stuff like that. And it's not that it doesn't still happen, but I don't see it as it's not maybe as strong as I remember it a few decades ago. And I'd like to see maybe more of that come back. And I think a lot of that is maybe just the breakdown of some of the better venues that we had that would host those types of shows. We don't have the Cafe Metros and things like that we had, 20 some years ago or whatever, that would support those types of scenes and allow them to grow and stuff, I think there's a lot of great bands around here and not enough places for them to play, and maybe not enough people to recognize what they're doing.
And see, that's so interesting because just me as a music consumer, I just hate driving. Mm-hmm. I just want to be able to get somewhere easily.
For sure.
Driving an hour to the Sherman Theater is just I get exhausted because then it's over at 11. You don't get home till 12, and it's dark out and my eyes hurt. So I would really love to see. Even if we had caravans or something. They do it for football games.
For sure, yeah. Even growing up, as soon as I got my license, I was in Allentown all the time for Croc Rock. Croc Rock was this little club that always had touring bands, and it was exactly the type of music that I listened to, metal and punk and stuff like that. that were all kind of club-sized bands. They weren't going to sell arenas. They weren't going to, fill places like that. But they were just those little and tickets were $20 or less. Like the places that were affordable to people. I think like music in general is just outpricing people at this point.
Seriously.
And those little hole in the wall venues. I know. Croc Rock has a reputation these days. It's long gone. They've demolished it and that sort of thing. But it has the artists never liked it. They always said it was tough to, they were not getting paid, or like sold a bunch of tickets and then got screwed somehow or something like that. So like there was a lot of that type of stuff. But as a concert goer, as a young kid who was into music, like places like that are essential.
Yeah. That's such an interesting perspective. I truly never thought about the venues, because I'm like, I know a few venues and I know the bands that play there, but I think you're right that it probably is a small amount.
Well, I see like just recently, and I don't know the story behind it, and I couldn't tell you any insider information there. I find out, some of this stuff like anybody else does. There was a little place called Spacement. And it was in a basement of Utopia Glass Shop in Wilkes-Barre, and they were hosting little shows and things down there. And when stuff like that pops up, it makes my heart full, because it's like, that's the kind of place you'd show up and you're like, what is this? And you just go down to somebody's weird basement to see a show. And they just got shut down recently, and I don't know what the situation is there, if that was like the city saying, oh, you can't do that here, or like landlord or whatever. I don't know, but stuff like that is like, oh, that's a huge blow. Like we need to fill that void with something else.
And in West Side we had that it's now Chief of Peru. What was that?
Stage West.
Yeah, Stage West.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that was a huge loss.
That was definitely a blow, because we got some really good stuff there,
and it was a great thing for the community. And it brought dollars into the community,
for sure.
Because like I knew people who came from Oliphant and beyond, like even further, to go to those shows.
Right. And I feel like, usually something else will come up to take its place, but it takes a few years. And in between, I feel like we lose a lot. Like there's bands who maybe they've got together, recorded an album, and already broke up by the time the next venue comes along, that could have been a platform for them, that could have helped them get to that next level, or given them a show that they needed.
So I'm wondering, what do you think about like parks and open spaces being able to be used for those things, and like bands being able to access them, and like people being able to go?
I think that's essential, because like one of the things that I've loved about being able to do the Allen Park concert series with you guys is going back to some of the bands that I've built relationships with over the years, that I've become friends with, or that I've just know through the scene, that I think are incredibly talented, that need a platform, to be able to give them a completely different show where they're going to definitely be in front of people who've never seen them before. And then those people go, not only did I not know they existed, I didn't even know the genre existed in Scranton. I didn't even know anybody was doing this. So to see that, I think is really great, and then I think it opens people's minds to the idea of like, oh, there is a music scene here. Not only is there a music scene, there's probably things here for me specifically, like as a kid driving back and forth to Allentown, I look back on it now and I go, how many shows did I miss locally because I kept driving there? If I had maybe explored Scranton a little bit more, I probably would have seen some really cool bands that I would have become a fan of that I just never got to see. Like I found one around that time, Lugosi's Morphine, like a horror punk band. And I was like, this happens in Scranton? I was so excited to see them. And I only got to see them a couple of times before they broke up. And I'm like, man, I wish I knew about that sooner.
Yeah.
So I hope that what we do does help highlight that, and maybe turns people on to the fact that there are so many cool artists here,
and hopefully inspire show developers the dollars.
Yes, that's
that
here.
We need space. Yeah.
'Cause
I'm thinking about like with Levels. I definitely had an experience just like that, where I was living in Scranton, or maybe I wasn't even living in Scranton. I don't know. think I might have just been visiting, and I was like, this place is so cool.
Yeah.
And then like I just saw an incredible band. I don't even remember who they are, but they kicked butt. It was awesome. And then it was gone, and it's just like, oh man, I'm just, yeah. So the advocacy and showing that it's here is definitely helpful in being able to make those pop-up spaces, and then, you know, people realize, oh, there's a market for it.
They are bringing a stage back to the old levels and Tinks.
Yep.
Yes.
You know, I think it's going to be probably a different vibe, but yeah, they're redeveloping that as a high-end restaurant, some apartments, and then a stage performing space in the basement.
I hope so.
We need a rager in the basement. Come on now, we
For
need to
sure.
go back to its origins.
I saw a lot of great shows at Tinks when it was Tinks back in the day, and I'm sure many people did here as well. There's a lot of touring bands that went there. Guar freaking played there how many years ago?
In the comments, I need all caps Tinks.
Yes,
I know that's the energy. I
for
know
sure.
that's there.
It's unreal. Like it's all of anybody who you would know from like Warped Tour era, like that sort of stuff. All those types of bands played at Tinks, came through there. The last time I saw any kind of show there, like it's probably going back 4 or 5 years. Motionless in White hadn't done a hometown show in a long time, and I think they wanted to kind of test the waters with like a club type show, and really had trouble finding like a place that would make sense for them at the time, because there was no real venues that could fit exactly what they were doing. So they rented out the top floor of Tinks that I didn't know existed, and it was very unfinished. And we get up there, and they basically just put a makeshift stage in the corner. Nothing was finished. The walls, it looked like a basement, but we were on the 4th floor. It smelled like a basement. And literally, as more people came in, I've never felt this in my life. The floor was bowing. It was actually like imploding as we were standing on it. So then as people are playing music and stuff, I'm literally feeling like whatever kind of knockoff steel beams that are, very aged and old and rusty or whatever, bowing underneath us. So like literally the floor is like a bouncy house.
Oh, goodness.
And I'm like, we're going to die here. We're all going to die here. This is going to be the next like Great White type of incident. Like, I don't know how they got away with that. I don't know how how fire codes did not shut that show down. But I was very glad after that I didn't see any big shows there ever again. That nothing else came through there before they have completely gutted it now.
I was definitely on that floor for a couple of parade days when I was a little younger than I am now. So.
Yeah, and it probably wasn't any safer then either.
And so that's actually where I had that memory at Levels.
Okay.
I was on the fourth floor in a place that looked like a basement. But
All right,
there
it
weren't
is a
nearly
cure.
as many people. I did not notice the floor.
Yeah, this was a
Jumping with
nightmare.
us.
Yeah, this was like, oh my God, please don't let someone light a match or something,
Well,
or
hopefully they fix
light up a
that
cigarette
up.
and throw it in a corner. Or, oh God, yeah. Well, now, I mean, I've just seen it, them doing, they've gutted the whole thing. They pulled out everything. So, I mean, it's going to be a brand new building. So I'm very excited to see that could be something really great.
Yeah.
And did I see too that there's a new community center in Westside with like murals and stuff on it? And that sort of thing?
It's the Youth Arts Center, and it's in partnership with the West Scranton Wrestling Alumni Association and the Youth Arts Coalition. So there is a massive wrestling room and art space for middle school students.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
It was, when we were putting together our neighborhood plan, there were some efforts at the time to, there was one kind of neighborhood group that had actually purchased this building where the youth center opened up, and they were trying to, turn it into a youth center. There was another group of residents that were trying to there's an old Boys and Girls Club in West Scranton.
Okay.
Trying to revive that, turn that back into the community center. It's a big task, right?
For sure.
To do that. It's an all-volunteer organization. But, lo and behold, these two groups came along, and it's a fantastic
Organized.
group of volunteers, very well organized, very well connected. They raised the dollars to do it. Organizations supported them in a few different ways. We paid for the mural on the outside of the building, which is fantastic. If you haven't seen that,
Would you be able to throw
really
it
cool.
up on the screen, the mural?
I can look it up.
It would be the Youth Arts Coalition mural.
Okay.
I think people would be into that.
Yeah, but that's we're really excited to see that youth center open up. Because it was a need in the community. There was no community center. There was no real space for kids, after school, once they left school, like a place for them to go and hang out. And, in this case, it's not going to be just for, wrestling and athletics, but also art and
music,
and, we've heard a little bit about some of the programming that they've got planned. It should be, just a really great place for kids to hang out after school and get a little bit of art and music.
Yeah, and the great thing about the area is that although there's lots of room for improvement with walkability and safety, it is like within walking distance in the community for a lot of people. It's like right on Washburn Street, so it's really like close to everything.
I found a picture. I'm gonna download it now and put it into StreamYard so you guys can see it. So in the meantime, I will put up this other flyer. You guys have an event coming up, the West Scranton Fall Festival.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the Youth Arts Coalition, who has that building that we were talking about, they will be there providing arts for the kids. But it is an annual festival at this point. It originated as being NeighborWorks' big splash of announcing and dropping the final plan after 2 years of working on it. So one of the big things that residents said that they would love to see and would really improve the area was more free things to do for families and more events open to the public. So we definitely took that to heart, and we wanted to highlight two of the parks in West Scranton that will have amenities and improvements coming to them soon. So Clover Field on Locust and Elm, that's by the Anthracite Recycling Center. So we have bounce houses and outreach things and giveaways and games, and there's going to be performance art. I'm trying to get a caricature artist to be there and do drawings for people. We have food, so it's a thing where you can spend 4 hours there and do bounce houses and meet your neighbors and just have a good time. There's going to be a DJ playing some music, and so that's from 12 to 4. The Fall Festival is on September 28th. So that's from 12 to 4, and then from 6:30 to 9:30, it's at Allen Park, which is where we're having the Allen Park concert series. And anybody who's been to the concert, you may have heard people say, "Oh, I was here before when there was a massive vehicle in the road, or a massive trailer." That's the Fall Festival, and we have a band. We have 2 bands on the showmobile, and they perform, and we try to have a nice ambiance. There's s'mores and a fire. We have free beverages. This year we're going to have a candy truck, a candy mobile. Jitty Joe's has a candy truck, which I did not know.
Yeah.
But they'll be there. So try to just like enliven the space, and it always has a really great vibe. I love the Allen Park portion of the Fall Festival. It just feels like it's something that's supposed to happen. Like when you're there, it just feels magical. I don't know if other people feel that way, but I definitely do. So that's the Fall Festival in a nutshell. We have something for everybody there.
Yeah, and it's all free.
All free.
We talked about accessibility. We want to make sure there's no barriers to people coming out and having a good time. So you can come out and enjoy all this for free, just like the Allen Park Concert Series.
Yep.
I'm going to put the mural up on screen here. Not me.
I really wish we brought the Wesley elf. I just feel like he kind of needs to come with us.
It's a little early for me to be thinking
Listen,
about.
it's never. I'm already thinking
Holidays.
about the holidays. I'm already thinking. They do Christmas in July. We could have totally given
missed the boat on
Wesley
that.
a popsicle.
So I guess my other question, I can't get that up.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, that's fine.
Miranda likes throwing people curveballs.
Yeah, I
Throw you
love it
off.
when people throw me curveballs.
So when I see a community center like that, the first thing I think of is like, could we see things like DIY shows there? You know, could we see young bands maybe trying to, set up, shows there? Because I remember a lot of that stuff growing up, and it's definitely still happening today at like the VFW halls are very big for that. You know, that's a way that they make their money too, is like they rent the hall to pretty much anybody for, different kinds of events and whatever. And especially like the punk and hardcore community are really big on VFW halls.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Seen a lot of good shows like that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure, but I'll definitely mention it to them. I think they may have been interested in having some type of event there, but I'm not entirely positive because they do have their wrestling mats rolled out. So I'm not sure what their plan is with those, because you definitely can't have sneakers on them.
Right.
But yeah, I'll definitely talk to the crew and see if that's something that they're thinking of, and if they aren't thinking of it, like, let them know that there's an interest.
There's a lot of people, and I when I had Chris Motionless on the podcast, he laughed about it because he remembered it too. There was a place called the Dome, and it was a like a big soccer field, like an indoor like soccer field, and people did shows there too. And it was the weirdest experience.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine that at Riverfront?
Yeah,
That's
right.
a massive complex. You
Yeah.
throw up all the walls,
Yes.
nothing's there. Wow.
That's exact, and that's
Yeah.
a very similar sort of place, So you have the huge white ceilings, these bright lights shining, and then just a big field, and you just walk in there, and somebody set up like a little stage that's like 5 feet off the ground, and like just did shows there.
I mean, that kind of reminds me of Hijinks, the festival in Philly. It's an EDM festival. It's a multiple day event, but it really just is like a massive warehouse that has like a dome shape. Their stage is definitely a little bit more high end than
yeah.
But I mean, yeah, you can have shows anywhere.
So we have the Allen Park concert series. We have 2 more of those coming up. They are this Friday from 6 to 8 with the Holtzman Effect, and
Pending the hurricane.
Pending the hurricane.
We'll
Yes.
definitely let you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So like, we've really had good luck with the weather.
We have had such good luck. That one day where it was raining, and then as soon as the band started, the sun came out. It was amazing.
It was perfect.
Wow. And then there was a rainbow. We've had rainbows at a few of them.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, it's really been great, and like people have stuck around.
Yeah.
Which is cool. So yeah, I'm hoping that maybe the rain will miss us.
Keep an eye on the Facebook page for Friday's event.
For sure. And because these are rain or shine, so if it's not too bad, if it's not thunderstorms,
If it's not like massively downpouring or thunderstorming, yeah.
Right. And then we have Meet Me on Marcy. We'll close it out on August 23rd.
Yep.
Yeah. So I already told the Holtzman guys, hopefully if it doesn't work out, then maybe they can come down here and, we'll do something here or something like that. We'll
Maybe
do like
we
a
can
little
have
video.
an NEPA Scene tiny desk, tiny couch show.
That's actually
TM.
we've been doing those.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, called NEPA Scene Sessions. We just started it recently. We have 5 episodes so far, so you can go check those out on our website or
Cool.
YouTube channel. They're on our Facebook and stuff as well. And they're like kind of stripped down acoustic session on this couch. So hope to
very
do
cool.
more stuff like that in the future. Because it was, like that's another thing too. Like growing up, we had all these like, the kids don't know what they are, but newspapers and magazines. And we had all these things that all had when they introduced digital components, that was always a thing. Like, oh, why don't we do an NPR tiny desk type thing, but here, that sort of thing. And all those outlets, even the ones that are still around, don't do them anymore. And I'm like, why is nobody doing this? That's like crazy
That's
to
wild.
me. Yeah.
Well, thank goodness NPR still is doing them because they are phenomenal.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
I think they need to change the name though, because because it used to be, obviously, it was really tiny desk. Like it was the one guy's desk
I thought
that
it
he
still
was like. I mean, when you look at the background, you realize like, oh, they just took a room and like dressed it up. Like they have a budget now. Like it was just like some dude who was like, hey, after hours, why don't we get a band to come in and like, play at my actual desk? And they have it look like that.
Yeah.
But then when they pull out for the bigger shots, like they had somebody on there recently, somebody big, like a Post Malone or Taylor Swift type of like level sort of artist. And then you look in the back and you're like, this is like a warehouse now. Like this is not tiny desk anymore.
NPR's
There's no way
big
that
desk show.
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but at least I'm looking around and I'm like, this is like a 20-piece band. There's no way that they're fitting this in some guy's office at NPR.
They've definitely had some big bands on there. There's like this 12-person ensemble, like the Our Home, Let Me Come Home. They're like a 12-piece orchestra.
Yeah.
And they have like there's somebody on the tambourine, there's somebody on a swing. Like there's people doing everything in that band.
But yeah, I've had a great time at the Allen Park series. I know you guys have gotten some good feedback on that. I've definitely gotten some good feedback on that. And this is the second year you guys did it. So you did it the first year. So this is kind of something you want to continue to build on, and maybe the fall festival and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, this was something that we wanted to experiment with because there are already concerts, like free concerts happening in the Scranton area.
Right.
In West Side, there's the Fellows Park concert series, and that's on Sundays. And then at NEOG, there's the the NEOG concert series. So we just wanted to see like if it was something that was needed, and it seems like it is. So we're just kind of trying new things and seeing what works and what people like, and yeah, it's fun to experiment and have that freedom of we know that people want something, and let's see what works.
For sure.
But yeah, we're really happy with what you've been able to do and bring to the table, and the really diverse mix of bands. And it's been really awesome to have some different styles and kind of give people a little bit of everything. Well,
I appreciate you guys bringing us on. Is there anything that you guys want to mention about any upcoming events or NeighborWorks in general, or maybe you could talk about how people can get in touch with you if you have something that you want to talk about in terms of housing, or looking to move into a home, or some of the senior services you talked about. I know that affects a lot of families around here. So
yeah, absolutely. The easiest way to get a hold of us is to go to our website, nwnepa.org. All information about the services we provide is available there. Contact information. You come to our office. We're located in West Scranton on Smith Street, right off of Main Avenue.
The old St. Anne's Credit Union.
Yeah.
There you go. For all the people in the neighborhood, who still think of it. Right?
Yeah. And we'll still call it that.
And
And before that, it was a veterans. It had something to do with
American
Legion.
Yeah, it was actually built as an American Legion building, and they still meet in our basement. So
cool.
We let them use the space free of charge for their monthly meetings.
And
that's cool.
One of our neighbors, a resident who lives catty corner from us, his father and grandfather helped build the building, with their bare hands.
Wow.
And before that, it was a field with donkeys. I went on a walk one day, and he was like, "Do you work over there? What you got going on?" And he knew way more about what we had going on than I did. He knew about the grounds. And also, if there's any people who are interested in getting involved in West Scranton specific stuff, they can feel free to reach out to me. I know you've tagged this on our West Scranton plan page. So anybody who's a business owner looking to start a business, is looking to get involved in the community, wants to do community cleanups, has an idea, hit me up. Let me know.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, keep up the good work. We'll see you hopefully this Friday at the Allen Park Concert Series, 6 to 8, with the Holtzman Effect, which will actually be one of the last times you'd be able to see them. So they're going on an extended hiatus. So we just happen to catch them right at the end
Goodness.
Their run. So yes, people are members are having children and life events and things like that. So it just makes sense for them to take a break for a little while. So
Tell Debbie the hurricane she needs to cool down.
yes,
Cool down,
chill.
Debbie. Debbie, cool it. Do we have any comments in the live stream?
Nothing that jumps out really.
Cool.
But feel free to still leave your comments down below about anything West Side or all the Scranton neighborhoods. If you're a Scranton resident, tell us the weird neighborhood name that you have probably made up.
And what you would want the mascot to be.
Yeah, there you go. Good idea. Yeah, every section of West Side needs its own mascot. So tell us what you think.
I kind of see Hyde Park as like Jekyll and Hyde Park.
Ooh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Maybe people would take offense to that, but I love the book.
I mean, it's way better than Needle Park, so.
Yep.
Talk about an upgrade. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, comment, all that good algorithm stuff so that we can reach more people. And we will see you here next Wednesday for another NEPA Scene Podcast. Have a good night.